Nice. I noticed there was a little bit of back and forth that happened late this afternoon between you and Kara. I don't want to get into it. Why don't you let's see how the proceedings go. If you have an issue, we'll talk about it later. The shed, I think we already discussed the shed last week. It's irrelevant to this hearing. Okay. We talked about that last week. Nothing interesting. It is what it is. Okay. I don't want to get into that. Okay, the applicant is now in receipt of the township attorney's letter, correct? All right, we'll talk about that later. After our last meeting, the applicant surveyed their property. Several changes were found. The applicant found they own the property to the water's edge, correct? Different than what you had in your first one.
What we asserted initially, but we were counseled otherwise via the township.
Township told you didn't own to the water's edge. Who told you that?
Carol read the traverse line.
Oh, the GIS?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you didn't have a survey either. You didn't have a current survey. Your survey showed that you did not own to the water's edge. I don't want to get into nip now with you because we could nip now all day long.
It really doesn't matter, Steve.
Well,
the ownership has been that way the whole time, but we were counseled that we couldn't count that.
Well,
we have not.
Carol doesn't know until a surveyor tells you.
The plat and the legal description is what tells us.
Got it. Okay. The board expressed to the applicant it would not approve moving the house closer to the lake. The board also stated they were not in favor of further encroachments into any other setbacks. It appears the applicant moved the house further from the lake, correct?
Correct.
Okay. It also appears that the applicant moved the house 1.5 feet closer to the road right away. Variance requested in this are front and rear setbacks, as well as far and large. The one area not improved but made worse is the rear yard setback. Please explain why this was done.
So last time we didn't finish getting any clarification during the meeting, but it seemed that the big concern was lakeside setback. Even though the survey dimensions varied a little bit from what we had on our original plan, we've only moved the house slightly backwards from there because we didn't feel like, even though we could technically go 3 feet forward, that wasn't in keeping with the intent. We're not trying to get as close to the lake as possible. The placement of the house is really meant to not block any of the neighbors, to stay away from the water's edge, but to take advantage of what is there currently, the existing structure. So by the meeting minutes from last time, we could move up to generally to the front of 260, as was reported in the meeting minutes that was agreed upon. But it was a concern by everyone that we're going to be too close to it. We could move up there and reduce or just about nix that lakeside setback issue. But since that seemed to be the sensitivity for everyone, we chose to move that. That's something that we're open to talking through, but your input is what we're listening. Steve, I know that you don't want to talk about the shed, but
I do not want to talk about the shed.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm going to talk about the shed.
It
is a legally non-conforming structure, and I know
show me a building permit for it, and show me it was approved at one point in time.
Show me a building permit for any of the houses out there, Steve. They were built before the current zoning ordinance.
Do you want to be argumentative about this? We can go on and on. I do not want to get into this with you. We do not approve any outside buildings like that as a setback. Has been a policy all the time. It's consistent.
It is a legally non-conforming.
Fine, call it whatever you want to call it. We're not going to use that as a setback.
Okay, I'm just telling you what the Zoning and Enabling Act says. That is what it is. I'm going to refer to it as the law requires me to refer to it. I'm not arguing. I'm just telling you what it is defined as.
Okay, moving on. The residence that is going to be maintained is 30.3. Now you have a setback of 33.3, so we're moving back.
Right.
But again, other than not wanting to redesign the house, which I understand would be a huge, probably expense and time consuming, you did move the house closer to the road. So that's the answer to that question that I asked you, I guess. Got questions from zoning board members? I ran my mouth and
I do. And when I look at the size of the two lots combined. And I've always felt that if there's an opportunity to eliminate or reduce non-existing conformities, that we're best served by approaching that.
Sure.
And so when I look at the size of the two lots combined, and you're wanting to put a house on there that's 4,000 square feet, which anyhow, it's 50% above the floor area ratio that's normally permitted from 20% up to 30%. But if you look at the lot and say, is there room to put a 40,000 or 4,000 square foot house on there without increasing any of the existing or improving the existing non-conformities? I think there is that opportunity. So that's one question I have is why aren't we approaching it that way?
I would say that we are. If you look at the existing structures on the site, the house at 260 isn't in compliance with anything but the roadside setback. Every other setback is blown away. It's above the floor area ratio. We're getting rid of it. The other house is also encroaching both on the lake and on the side yard setback. And even though the garage that's there, the shed garage is in question here, we can say what it is or what it isn't all day long, but it's still a structure 5 feet from the road and it's been there. If you've been out there, it's not a new structure. So really there are structures all over these two parcels that are not in conformance right now. So by reducing all these, it opens up green space. We can talk about whether the roadside or the lakeside can be moved one way or the other. That was one thing I tried to get clarification on at the end of last meeting, and I was denied clarification. So we had to make some guesses here. It seemed like
I think I sent you an email responding to your 3 questions.
Yes. But the one thing that I tried to ask last time, you said that we weren't going to get clarification. So anyway,
please tell me what that was.
I had 2 questions.
One, 3 in the email, and I responded saying that
there were
the
3
zoning board did not want to go further than setback.
I would ask that you keep decorum so we can speak about this appropriately. Yes, there were 3 questions in the email, and there were 2 other ones that the email somewhat addressed. I had a question about the difference between an open and closed deck, whether a screen porch, covered porch mattered or not. And then one question that we did ask last time was whether the lakeside was being given priority. Because there was a lot of talk about the side yards, the roadside. There had been some question about whether moving closer to the road would be allowed. At this point, we said we have the whole envelope of the house is maybe 6 inches bigger than what the 2 houses sitting there, not including the shed, but deeper than what those 2 houses allow for current setbacks. But since everyone's concern was what is the impact on the surrounding area, we wanted to show that in good faith we can move that house back. If there's concern about any view, about breaking the existing building line, about any of that, we can give priority to the lakes. If that's not a priority, we can have that moved right up to where the house at 260 is and still not encroach on anyone's view, still not push more mass than needed there. But we chose to be concerned on that. I would love to hear otherwise. If that's not the concern, I'd love for that to be an open discussion.
Any questions?
I thought I'd see something different, but obviously I didn't, so this is what we have to look at. I agree with Mark that there's a lot here. Why are we infringing on that?
And to elaborate on that a bit, if I can interject right now, okay. And it looks, as I'm looking at the existing encroachments here, that you're actually, this is a unique situation that we have two lots that we're putting together. We have two non-conforming structures. That you're using the basis for a non-conforming structure from one of the houses and an existing non-conformity from another house, combining them together to get the footprint that you're saying, you know, and even exceeding that. So I do question, especially in this circumstance, because we're combining with two separate structures. Do you get to just pick all of the best non-conformities that are out there to meet your needs right now? Does that make sense?
I completely understand your question.
Okay,
And one of the things that we've taken into account in looking along the road is what are all the other houses doing? I know that that's not the way that the variance looks at, but we also want to make, there is a question that has to be reviewed, is granting the variance request and conferring upon the applicant's special privilege. And if you look at the average along that lakeside, from either the roadside, from the lakeside, this is not out of keeping with the neighborhood. It is, I know you mentioned that it's a 4,000 square foot structure above grade. It is 20, everything else is below grade. And you'll find that it is not the largest house out there by a good margin. I can point to at least 3 others that are larger than that. And the lot sizes are not drastically different.
well, they must be somewhat bigger. I don't know that we've ever allowed anything larger than 30%.
Correct, but I'm saying, relatively, they're not drastically different. I would also point to the fact that the township is reviewing whether a lakeside residential should be sought after, because this is an issue. I can probably count the number of lots that are conforming on one hand.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, a lot of your time in the evenings is spent dealing with variances for lakes, because the ordinance was made in what, 79?
Right.
It's out of date from that standpoint.
Right.
So from that stance, you can slice and dice it anyway. We're not trying to overbuild for this area. We're not trying to make something that's huge. If you had a chance to take a look at the renderings that are part of the packet, we're trying to convey. You had a great question last time, Mark, about how much mass. It's one thing to say, where's the front of the house, but how much mass is in the asset? And we realized, oh, these elevations don't really make it clear because they look like this one big one. Looking at that, at that rendering, most of the house is held back for the very express intent of not creating a large structure. If any of you have been on Crooked Lake and gone around the corner there, the blue house that's on the corner with all the glass on it is a similar approach, with the same idea that it's reserved from the roadside. It presents a nice lakeside side, but still does not impede the environment. To your express question about should we be able to cherry pick? Well, here's the worst roadside conformity, and here's the other one. We are taking a look at the lot as a whole. Since it would be a combined legal description and the FAR, the lot coverage, all of that would be expressed as a single lot. The structures should also be expressed as a single lot.
Thanks.
Comments?
I'll comment that I do think that the proposed new house is an improvement with the setbacks compared to the two separate houses on the two separate parcels. I think it does open it up much more than it is now, and I personally think that the shed is good. In terms of the setbacks, I understand that that's ZBA doesn't measure from that, but I will acknowledge that. And you know that we need to review each of the 7 standards of review. Sure. In order to a project, and if we think one of the standards of review is not met, then it has to be denied. So in looking back, especially the second standard of review, looking at reducing the amount of space at the rear yard, even slightly 1.6 feet. I couldn't think of a special circumstance in this specific parcel, looking at it as a combined parcel that warrants that. So in our last meeting, I did acknowledge how I would prefer moving back into that placement as opposed to more. And then I think this can be clarified that we had that before, but under special circumstances required by that specific. So we're thinking in that mindset, I couldn't think of a special circumstance, and I think I even mentioned, you know, if you wanted to keep the same size, you could potentially stand more into that side yard and one side yard. Since so to me, that is a sticking point.
Okay.
I know it doesn't seem like a lot, the 1.6 feet, but it's still further. So that's something that I want to.
So can I ask then, so we've got the 1.6 foot further encroachment there. We've got 3 feet to the front from the existing encroachment. So obviously we could move forward 1.6 feet and have that's the condition that's willing to be entertained by members of the ZBA. That is something that we would be amenable to.
Yeah, I feel like we were, I don't want to say at a consensus, but generally in agreement that using either front setback from the house, the existing houses now would be acceptable. So to me, shifting it slightly, but still within the, is it 30.3?
Yes, 30.3 is the closest encroachment.
Within the 30.3 would be an acceptable shift. I do have a question. In reading the revised staff report about the FAR, what is the actual proposed FAR?
29.5.
I have 29.9, however, I know previously the ZBA has considered the area below, you know, for consideration of a deck. So I just put that out there for you to take a look at, which moves it up to 32. Even though it's part of that basement area, that is it's been something that the ZBA has considered in the past.
So that would be different than what the ordinance reads.
Is that-
Telling you
is
what
that
the ZBA has
So is
considered.
that the basement level?
Yeah.
So it already counts there's a cover deck and it counts that in 29.9.
There's the patio underneath that deck that is part of what's not counted in the above.
Okay.
And I would point to, I think it's just after the site plan, we have calculations that show that yes, we are more than 50% in the ground, so that is below grade. As we know, that's been a sticking point on some of the lakes around here, especially with some of the topography. We wanted to show that yes, we are in.
If we move it forward, does that change it?
No.
I also have a question about the locations of existing sewer lines on the parcels. Does that influence where you cited the house?
A little bit. There are 2 cans on there currently. They're currently not in, they're not conforming because you're supposed to keep a 50-foot separation on either side of those as well as to neighboring cans and wells. So it is a little bit of a dance to fit both of those. Currently, the well is across the street, something else that was grandfathered in. It's still in land that Andy and Katie own, but we're trying to bring that into conformity as well. So there is this dance of where's the neighbor's sewer, where's the neighbor's well, where's their sewer, where's their well. Given the fact that there are a lot of shallow wells on the lake, you have to stay 70 feet off the lake because they treat the lake frequently and you're not allowed to have a well. So it does give some, it does inform a little bit the placement of the new structure.
And so would it prohibit moving or expanding to the west, given the location?
A little bit. To what degree I couldn't speak to. We looked at that in our initial site due diligence, and partially at that point we weren't sure whether we'd be keeping both structures and whether we needed to keep a sewer can wherever it is. And I know that's a whole separate question.
So would you keep it? Does one of them go with, will one of them go with the new house?
Correct.
Okay.
If you look at the site plan, may even be on the survey. The one closer to the road and a little bit easterly is the one that will be kept immediately. And then the well will go as far as we can to the southeast.
Okay, I don't see it on the survey, but that's.
Yeah. Yeah, if I,
If it has to, you can move the can.
Yeah.
You know.
you can, and there's
Most people do that.
the hardest, yeah. Just serious. Oh, yeah, and we have a contingency in removing that. I know we can't move it too far to the west because of the existing residents at parcel number 15 there have a pin that we can't get close. And since a lot of those are high pressure lines, you have to Yeah.
And then, just to clarify where the west, the measurement for the west setback comes from, is that on the survey?
Was set back to the existing structure or the new structure?
Oh, the new structure.
Yes, that's on there. And we measure both the deck stairs and to the base of the current structure.
Okay, we just didn't see that. So those numbers are the same. as that numbers.
Mhm. Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I stated at the last meeting, I wasn't overly concerned moving into the roadside setback. I'm still not today. I think you guys have tried to comply with a lot of concerns, got surveying done. You know, and try to say to redo the plan and come out with a big time, I think it's nitpicking on our part. I think the house is reasonable, if it's consistent with other projects we've approved, and, you know, I don't have concern with, we're excited right now for the current plan. I just think 1 foot into the roadside setback, you know, I've been one arguing for this lakeside rezoning, that's one of the standards I would like to see in a lakeside district, is a reduced roadside setback. So I think we're just nitpicking over 1 foot, you know. My recommendation is to approve it, let them get out and improve this property.
I appreciated your concern earlier about, you know, you hate to breach anything when you can, and it seems like there is room, and I think you would acknowledge that it was not too challenging to move the house 1.5 feet, so that we would meet that threshold of the roadside setback. That to me sounds a bit more appealing. That we can just stay within that existing one that we have right now, not to make it any further.
And if that were a part of a conditional approval, we'd be very amenable to that.
Now,
I agree. We're moving it, unfortunately.
keep an existing setback.
Yes, sir. I would agree with that too.
Yeah,
If that allows us to get this approval, let them move it on, and just slide the house from the foot forward. It seems like a good change to me.
I agree with your earlier statement, Ed, that, you know, if there's a side that you'd wanna encroach on more, it would be the street side. I get that completely. But I don't know that that's our role. We're, here's what we're given, and this is what we, right. If we didn't have that, I'd say, yeah, I would like to see more lakeside, but I don't know if that parameter is really given to us completely.
I understand that.
So is that what everybody kind of believes, to move it a foot and a half forward?
Yeah.
Don't move it any closer than 30.3. Right?
Yeah, I struggled more, and I think you had a great answer, when I asked earlier about, which setbacks you use, and I thought your answer was a good one. And I do appreciate overall the scale of it, that it's improving setbacks, especially when you consider that there's a structure there now that won't be there. Where I do get a little bit of question is just the complexity of adding two lots and what this does for us in the future. We'd like to remain consistent. And I think we put great effort in trying to remain consistent. That what happens and I notice there's 4 or 5 houses before you get to yours. There's actually 2 adjoining lots. One is next to the lake and one is behind it. And the one next to the lake is probably 4 feet from the lake. But I was thinking, as I was driving away, why I had stopped again. And I'm like, now what if those 2 houses had adjoined their property? Which setbacks would we take for that property? And I'm like, so it gets a lot more complex, I think, when you're adding two parcels on which of the existing ones to honor.
Yeah.
So I very much appreciate your answer and to a large degree agree with it. That overall, when you look at that, it is improving. And I would agree with that.
And if you
So what we have from the ZBA, can we go through the standards and we agree to move it a foot and a half closer? Do I want to do that? Okay. All right.
I circle 2.
Okay. All right, let's go through the standards. Special conditions and circumstances exist that are unique to the land structure and buildings involved and are not applicable to other land structures and buildings in the same district, as such unique circumstances exist that favors granting variance. Mark? Yes.
Yes.
2, the special circumstances or conditions on which the variance request is based do not result from the actions of the applicant. If the circumstances are not self-creating, that favors granting the variance.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. 3, literal interpretation of this chapter would deprive the applicant rights commonly enjoyed by the other property owners in the same district under the terms of this chapter. If applicant would be deprived of the rights given to other owners in the same district after granting variance.
Yes.
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 Yep. 4, granting the variance request will not confer upon the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this chapter to other land structures or buildings in the same district. The variance will not confer special privileges on the applicant that favors granting variance.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. 5, the existence of non-conforming uses of neighboring land structures or buildings in the same district permitted or non-conforming uses of land structures or buildings in other districts. And non-conforming structures shall not be considered grounds for the issuance of a variance. The variance is not based on fact that there are non-conforming uses or structures in the same district. Then that favors granting the variance.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. 6, the variance granted must be the minimum variance that will make it possible reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. Request seeks the minimum variance needed to make a reasonable use of the land, and that there is granted variance.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. 7, the variance granted must be in harmony with the intent of this chapter and will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to public interest. The request will not injure the neighborhood, not injure the public interest, and that favors granting the variance.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. We need to amend, I had written some stuff down, so I need to amend the motion here a little bit. And motion approved the application for 260-268 short. As described in the applications and drawings. However. This is gonna be a minute.
They can see additional to move in the house, 1.6.
To align with the existing non-conformity.
Take over 1.5 feet to the lake to avoid adding a roadside non-conformity. Eliminate roadside non-conformity.
Well, it's still roads in it.
Not by feet, some distance from the road. Was that 30.3, was that the number?
31.7 is.
Lake, 30
Oh,
feet.
right. Oh, yeah.
The address on the house on the west.
260.
260. Okay, this one we're gonna add to the normal stuff. The ZBA during discussions has determined the applicant will move the structure to within 30 foot 3 inches from the lake, which is the same as the setback. Same as the setback is 260. Does that work?
About no closer than.
Yeah, I don't think we're going all the way up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it would no, it's not gonna move that entire direction.
It's moving
It's
it.
going to be that.
Little spots.
Right.
So what's the distance from the lake will be?
It would be. 36 point, or I'm sorry, wrong direction. 33.1. So we want to check my math. 34.7 minus 1.6, 33.1. Perfect. Yeah.
33.
Okay, so we're gaining 3 feet there. Right.
Okay. Motion to approve application for 260-280 Shoreview. As described in the application and drawings, the ZBA. During discussions has determined the applicant will move the structure to within 33.1 feet from the lake, which is more than the setback on 260. Setback of 260.
The existing non-conformity of 260, correct?
Okay,
Where does the 33.1?
That's the the proposed 34.7 feet, to the lake of the proposed structure, less than 1.6 feet that would be moving.
7, not 33.5.
That's the deck, or the deck stairs, I should say. Which would you like it referring to, I guess is the question.
This is the number that we're referencing now. This number is irrelevant at that time because they're moving it forward.
So then we're subtracting 1.6 feet from 33.5.
I'm getting the numbers from here. 33.
Okay.
So
We could go,
the number,
we could, yeah,
34.6, and we're losing 1.6, so it'd be 33.
yeah, it depends on where.
Right.
Yeah, the closest one is 33.5, the deck is, yeah, you're right, Angela. So 31.9.
31.9.
31.9.
31.9. Tried to measure it all the way across, so. Backfiring.
There's a lot of numbers on here.
Okay. Scratch a bunch of- motion to approve application for 260-280 Shorter. As described in the application and drawings. The ZBA during discussions has determined the applicant will move the structure to within 31 feet 9 inches from the lake, which is more than the setback of 260. Okay, this approval includes justification in the staff report as well as discussions and findings during the hearing.
Just a quick, so I think it's 31.9 feet, not 31 inches.
Yeah.
31.9 feet.
Right.
Okay. Is that the only change? Okay. Mark?
Oh,
Yes.
I have a question. Sorry. The condition,
We're not talking about that later.
oh,
That'd be next.
okay. So we could do a separate condition?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So two.
Yeah. But I always appreciate you checking up. Double check.
We need to make a motion to approve that, Steve, that's second.
Yes, I made the motion.
Second.
Read it. Why don't you read it?
Okay.
Okay, motion to approve application for 260-268 Shoreview as described in the application drawings. The ZBA during discussions has determined the applicant will move the structure to within 31.9 feet from the lake, which is more than a setback of 260. Okay. This approval includes justification and staff report as well as ZBA discussions and findings during the hearing.
I second.
With good comments, with good comments. Okay, so you have a second? Okay, Mark?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yep. Okay, so you're good to go. Now on to the letter.
That's good.
I'm just gonna make if you guys wanna do this, that's up to you. The ZBA can make a motion. I don't think we need to go through standards on this letter, just a motion.
Right.
There's nothing to do. Motion to approve the applicant's desire to maintain the existing most westerly home. 260, is that right?
Correct.
260 during new home construction. This approval is contingent on applicant meeting all requirements in the Sylvan Township Legal Counsel's memo dated February 6, 2023. All I'm doing is referencing the letter and you guys figure it out.
Thank you.
Any comments on that? I'm not gonna take stuff out of the letter, I'm just gonna reference the letter and try and draft it. But I don't think that-
Well, they gave us kind of a choice of things, like,
They gave them choice of things, so they can work it out with the attorney.
with the township, with the township.
Take one of those, execute one of those choices.
Yeah, I'm not getting into the weeds on that.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Okay?
Yep.
Was there a concern, Mark, really?
No,
Shut down conversation.
there was not a concern on mine. It was just that, as I had read the letter, would it be, I think yesterday, whenever it was forwarded to
Yep.
us. It seemed like there was, I don't have it in front of me, I'm sure it's like here somewhere. But they had mentioned several things that could be considered to achieve the goal that we want to. Which is to make sure one house gets torn down. And so that's what my only reference was, is there's a choice there, and if it's stated. Rather than tell them what to do, if it's stated in the letter, I'm comfortable with that.
It's a decision between them and the township attorney. We need not be involved.
I'm perfectly fine with
My-
that.
Okay,
So I have a question then. So when Attorney Thal says, I would recommend the following conditions of approval. There are conditions of approval to this application that we just.
Yes.
So then this motion will say the application contains the conditions of approval recommended by the memorandum. Is that right?
the motion I would make on this is motion to approve the applicant's desire to maintain the existing most westerly home 260 during home construction. This approval is contingent on applicant meeting all requirements in Sylvan Township Legal Counsel's memo dated February 6th, 2023.
So is he laying out requirements or?
Laying out the paths that they can take, or the things that they need to do in order to maintain their house.
Okay, it didn't, it seemed like he was suggesting conditions for future problems. So I guess the word requirements struck me as a little bit. I guess it was the attorney's recommended conditions.
You got enough.
Recommended conditions.
Meet all conditions, in township legal counsel's memo.
Yeah,
That's fine with me.
yeah, recommended conditions.
I appreciate any constructive criticism.
And so, oops, sorry. He knows that one parcel has not been recorded, is that correct?
Yes.
Has not been what?
Recorded with the county.
The quit claim deed has been signed by, I believe, signed by the kids, whether it's been recorded or not, but it's been given to our township and they filed it with the arm. That's as far as I know.
Oh, okay, it just, he made that comment in that.
Yeah, I see that too.
Because we don't have a recorded, claim for that, to show that the own both parcels.
Okay, so that's just considered. a
It'll be
condition.
part, well, actually. One of the conditions of the combining of these parcels as well, you know, and I think that's referenced in Bell's memo as well. Because they have to be combined,
And if it helps,
and ownership under one person.
and the proposed survey has the combined legal description there, so that's the immediate intention.
Didn't want to get in the weeds with the attorney's talk to the applicant. None of that fun stuff. Okay, I'll read it again. Motion to approve the applicant's desire to maintain the existing most westerly home 260 during the home construction. This approval is contingent on applicant meeting all conditions in the Sylvan Township Legal Counsel's memo dated February 6th, 2023. Second.
Yeah.
Mark?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yep. We're done.
Appreciate everyone's.
Time to spend some money.
Yeah, the one guy bought a house for 460 and 480 across from the bay where I live on, and they're getting torn down. Wow. Not big lots either.
Well, there's more money on Galvin Lake than there's up there.
Yes. Maybe. Any new business comments from the ZBA members? Anything else? Any other comments?
Congratulations.
Thank you for being here tonight.
I do have to admit, one feature I saw in the plans for the house that I really liked was the dog wash.
I have it on good.
I was like, I would put that in my house and next house in a second.
I think all have seen by trudging around our property. I've got a lot.
Well, good addition.
But I have it on good authority, it's gonna be an and wash.
I'd be standing in mine occasionally too, but.
They're gross coming in.
Motion to adjourn, so move.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.